In the loop on what's going on?
No, Maddie doesn't really even tell him that she's pregnant. He'll find out.
How long has it been since they've spoken?
Probably been 2 or 3 years.
In fact, 7 months after Maddie welcomed her fourth child with her husband Caleb Brush in March, as she wrote in a DM to one follower looking for tips, she says, quote, "Your dad saying lies about you for the entire world to hear teaches it to you real quick." And while Kody has recently begun to take ownership for his role in what he calls, quote, "the failure of the family," any sort of repair process is going to be a lengthy one.
For years, fans have watched Kody Brown's complicated web of relationships slowly unravel on Sister Wives. But few storylines have hit as deeply as the quiet heartbreak between Kody and his daughter, Madison Brush, the eldest child of Janelle Brown. Once the golden little girl of the plural family, Maddie's distance from her father now symbolizes just how fractured the Brown household has become. When Janelle revealed on Sister Wives' November 9th, 2024 episode that Maddie hadn't spoken to Kody in years, the air practically left the room. It was one of those moments where viewers paused and replayed the scene, just to be sure they heard it right. "Is Kody in the loop on what's going on?" a producer asked. "No," Janelle answered simply. "Maddie doesn't really even tell him that she's pregnant. He'll find out." The line landed like a gut punch, not because fans hadn't suspected it, but because it confirmed just how long the silence had stretched. "There's really no reason to," Janelle continued. "They haven't spoken for a long time." How long, exactly? 2 to 3 years, according to Janelle. That's not just distance, that's estrangement. To understand how Maddie, once so close to her father, reached this point, you have to go back. Back to Flagstaff, to the chaos of the COVID years, to when Kody's relationships with his wives and his adult children began to implode. When Kody started enforcing strict pandemic rules in season 16, it wasn't just his wives who pushed back. His adult kids, especially Janelle's and Christine's, felt the brunt of his authoritarian streak. Maddie, living out of state with her husband, Caleb Brush, watched the chaos unfold from afar. But she saw enough to recognize a troubling pattern. The more Kody tried to control, the more everyone around him pulled away. Fans on Reddit have long noticed it too. "Every time Kody says my rules, it's like he forgets his kids are grown," one user wrote. Maddie was never going to play by his control book. In earlier seasons, Kody and Maddie shared a genuine warmth. She was outspoken but respectful, the kind of daughter who understood both the spiritual and emotional sides of their polygamous life. But as time went on, and Kody's focus shifted almost entirely to Robin Brown and their children, the cracks began to show. When the family moved from Las Vegas to Flagstaff in 2018, Maddie didn't follow. She and Caleb were building their life in North Carolina, raising their kids away from the cameras. But the emotional distance between her and her father wasn't just geographical, it was ideological. Maddie had grown up, evolved, and started defining her faith, family, and values on her own terms. And Kody? He couldn't handle it. He wanted obedience, respect, and alignment with his rules, even from adult children who had long left home. As Maddie later explained on her Authentics Society podcast in late 2024, "He doesn't have any respect for boundaries, and you have to play by his rules. I just don't care to do that." It was raw, honest, and final. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't frame it as a misunderstanding. She framed it as a decision, a choice to protect her peace. Many fans say this pattern mirrors what happened with Christine, Janelle, and even Mary. Kody's affection, they argue, has long seemed conditional, given freely when people fall in line, withdrawn when they resist. And Maddie, like her mother, has always been fiercely independent. When she quietly stopped talking to Kody, there wasn't a dramatic fight or televised confrontation. There was simply silence. A silence that spoke louder than words. Janelle described it on camera not with anger, but resignation. Her tone wasn't bitter, it was sad. You could see the mom in her trying to hold the line, respecting Maddie's boundaries while knowing Kody likely wouldn't. "He'll find out," Janelle said again, almost as if she was reminding herself. And that line, "he'll find out," captured everything wrong with the family's current state. A grandfather learning about his grandchild's birth through someone else, a father hearing his daughter's milestones secondhand. A relationship once filled with laughter and trust reduced to silence and updates through other people. Then came October 2024, and the post that left no doubt. Maddie shared an Instagram story that read, "Be careful where you spend your energy. Not everyone deserves access to it." It was simple, but in the comments, One follower asked how she learned that lesson. Maddie didn't hesitate. She replied, "Your dad saying lies about you for the entire world to hear teaches it to you real quick." Fans immediately connected the dots. The lies she mentioned? Likely Kody's public comments about his older kids being disrespectful, entitled, and disloyal during season 18 confessionals. It wasn't just an emotional rift anymore. It was public, raw, and deeply personal. As of late 2025, Maddie hasn't spoken publicly about any reconciliation. On her podcast, she focuses on motherhood, family values, and personal growth, topics she handles with calm maturity. Kody, meanwhile, has admitted in recent Sister Wives episodes that he's failed as a father and wants to fix it. But the damage runs deep. Rebuilding trust after years of public hurt isn't a quick fix. Insiders close to the family told In Touch earlier this year that Maddie loves her mom and siblings, but she's done chasing relationships that only go one way. And that, right there, sums it up. Maddie isn't angry. She's just done. She's building her own family, her own peace, and her own legacy, one that doesn't depend on whether Kody Brown ever picks up the phone again. Madison Brush's distance from Kody Brown didn't just happen overnight. It's the culmination of years of tension, public commentary, and private frustrations that spilled into the spotlight. And while some fans might assume that time heals all wounds, Maddie's story shows that sometimes silence is the only form of self-preservation left. Social media has become Maddie's platform for honesty. In October 2024, 7 months after welcoming her fourth child with Caleb Brush, Maddie shared an Instagram story with a message that resonated with thousands. Be careful where you spend your energy. Not everyone deserves access to it. It was more than just a motivational quote. For those following her closely, it was a subtle, pointed response to the rift with her father. When one follower asked how she learned to conserve her emotional energy, Maddie didn't mince words. She wrote in a DM, "Your dad saying lies about you for the entire world to hear teaches it to you real quick." That single line revealed the depth of the estrangement. It wasn't about one small disagreement. It was about years of being misrepresented, dismissed, and controlled, and realizing she no longer needed to subject herself to that energy. Reddit communities quickly picked up on the post, with fans speculating about which comments from Kody she was referencing. Many pointed to his season 18 confessionals, where he critiqued Maddie and her siblings publicly, framing them as disrespectful and rebellious. Maddie's response, though understated, spoke volumes. She was taking ownership of her life and setting boundaries her father had long ignored. Maddie's decision to go no contact isn't rooted in anger or revenge. It's about boundaries. During a November 2024 podcast appearance on Her the Authentic Society, she explained her reasoning plainly. "He doesn't have any respect for boundaries, and you have to play by his rules. I just don't care to do that." It's a statement that underscores the tension between independence and parental control in the Brown family. Maddie isn't the first adult child to push back against Kody's rules. Fans have watched Christine and Mary wrestle with the same patterns, but Maddie's approach is unique. She chooses peace over conflict, silence over public arguments. This decision isn't just emotional, it's practical. Maddie has her own family to focus on, 4 children, a husband, and a life far removed from the constant scrutiny of TLC cameras. Each interaction with her father could reopen old wounds, so she opts out entirely. The Instagram posts, podcast statements, and public hints are her way of owning her narrative without re-entering the battlefield. While Maddie has gone no contact, Kody has begun to publicly acknowledge his role in the family breakdown. In interviews and recent Sister Wives episodes, he has admitted to what he calls the failure of the family and hinted at wanting reconciliation. Yet insiders note that Kody's apologies often come with conditions, a willingness to engage if his rules are followed or if conversations happen on his terms. Maddie, having grown into her own person, isn't interested in conditional love. The trust isn't there, and without trust, reconciliation becomes nearly impossible. Fans on Reddit have debated whether Kody's approach could ever work. One thread read, "He's apologizing, but the same patterns exist. Maddie isn't wrong to protect herself. She's smarter than letting history repeat itself." The Brown family's story has always been public, but the Maddie-Kody dynamic highlights a growing divide between private reality and televised narrative. While viewers see Kody interacting with his wives and younger children on camera, his oldest daughter is building a life entirely outside of that lens. This divide creates a tension that fans notice immediately. How can a father claim to love his child when he remains oblivious to major milestones, like Maddie's pregnancies, until someone else informs him? How can reconciliation happen when one party refuses to acknowledge the harm caused? These questions linger in the fan community and drive endless debate on social media. Maddie's approach is a masterclass in private accountability. She documents her journey publicly, but on her terms. No dramatics, no televised confrontations, just boundaries, clarity, and the conscious decision to prioritize her family's well-being over maintaining a connection that could be harmful. Through it all, Janelle Brown remains a subtle but critical figure. Her comments on the TLC episode, Maddie doesn't really even tell him that she's pregnant. He'll find out, reveal both her awareness of the distance and her acceptance of Maddie's choice. Janelle's voice in the background of the narrative serves as a bridge between father and daughter, though she doesn't force reconciliation. Janelle herself understands the nuances of Kody's control and how it has shaped his children. She has often spoken about the complexity of raising children in a polygamous household, where the patriarch's influence can shape identities in ways that are difficult to navigate even as adults. Maddie, raised in that system but now fully independent, is living proof of the long-term impact of those dynamics. Reddit and other online communities have been abuzz with theories about the Maddie-Kody rift. Many fans speculate that the silence might be permanent, pointing to the consistency of Maddie's no-contact approach and her willingness to speak openly about boundaries. Others hope for reconciliation, noting that Kody has expressed regret and that time might soften the estrangement. One popular fan theory is that Maddie's distance isn't just about Kody's behavior, but also a protective measure for her own children. By establishing clear boundaries now, she may be shielding them from the emotional turbulence that characterized her childhood in the plural family. This is an insightful observation, reflecting the cyclical nature of family trauma, and Maddie's conscious effort to break that cycle. The distance between Madison Brush and her father, Kody Brown, isn't just a storyline for fans to speculate about. It's the culmination of years of emotional control, public misrepresentation, and the long shadow of polygamous family dynamics. In understanding Maddie's decision to go no contact, one has to trace the roots of their rift back to her formative years and Kody's approach to parenting within the plural family system. Growing up as the eldest daughter in the Brown family meant navigating a complex web of rules, expectations, and hierarchical dynamics. Kody's approach, often described by insiders as rigid and controlling, shaped Maddie's early understanding of authority and obedience. As multiple sources, including former Sister Wives cast members, have noted, children in polygamous households are often taught that loyalty and adherence to the patriarch's rules are paramount. Decisions, from schooling to social interactions, were subject to Kody's oversight. Maddie's teenage years in particular were framed by a sense of obligation rather than autonomy. This formative experience laid the groundwork for future conflict once Maddie sought independence. Reddit fan threads dissecting Maddie's posts often highlight how her Instagram comment about conserving energy isn't just a response to recent events. It's a reaction to years of emotional labor, of having to navigate a system where speaking out could have consequences. This isn't mere teenage rebellion. This is a considered, mature response to trauma and control. One of the most significant sources of tension has been Kody's public statements about Maddie and her siblings. On multiple occasions, Kody's interviews framed Maddie as disobedient or estranged, presenting a one-sided narrative that didn't account for her perspective. In her October 2024 Instagram story, Maddie explicitly addressed this. Your dad saying lies about you for the entire world to hear teaches it to you real quick. It's a striking admission. Maddie isn't just hurt by private slights. She is responding to the erosion of her reputation in a very public forum. TLC's portrayal of family conflict, coupled with Kody's own comments, amplified the sense that Maddie's identity and choices were being controlled from a distance. By stepping away, she reclaims not only her autonomy, but also her voice. Fans on Reddit drew parallels between Maddie's stance and Christine's earlier public struggles with Kody. Both women experienced being framed within the narrative of polygamy, but Maddie chose to disengage entirely, illustrating a generational shift in how Brown daughters confront patriarchal control. Maddie's choice to implement strict boundaries with Kody is both deliberate and protective. As she told the Authentic Society podcast, "He doesn't have any respect for boundaries, and you have to play by his rules. I just don't care to do that." This statement is layered. On one level, it's a critique of Kody's insistence on authority over adult children. On another, it's an acknowledgement of the emotional toll of operating under constant surveillance and judgment. Maddie has clearly decided that her emotional health and her family's stability come first. Boundaries like this are particularly important given Maddie's growing family. 4 children with her husband, Caleb Brush, means that her focus is no longer on navigating Kody's expectations, but on creating a secure, loving environment for the next generation. By cutting off toxic dynamics, Maddie ensures that her children don't inherit the same cycle of control and manipulation. The Maddie-Kody estrangement is a textbook example of how polygamous family dynamics can leave lasting emotional scars. Trauma in these households isn't always overt abuse. Often, it's the constant balancing act of competing for attention, navigating hierarchies, and suppressing authentic feelings. Maddie's statements about conserving energy and disengaging from lies reveal a profound self-awareness. She recognizes the patterns that perpetuated her distress: control, misrepresentation, and the expectation that suffering is a form of spiritual or moral growth. By rejecting these patterns, she models an alternative approach, acknowledging the past, setting boundaries, and cultivating emotional independence. Online fan discussions have repeatedly noted how Maddie's approach contrasts with the typical media narrative of Brown family drama. Instead of public confrontations or tearful confessions, she communicates subtly and deliberately, letting her actions speak louder than Kody's words. In doing so, she demonstrates a level of agency that is rare in stories of estranged adult children within high-profile polygamous families. While some might view Maddie's silence as cold or distant, it is, in fact, a protective mechanism. Silence allows her to maintain control over her narrative and avoid the re-traumatization that could come from repeated interactions with Kody. It also underscores the emotional cost of growing up in a household where parental attention and affection are conditional. Maddie's story resonates because it mirrors experiences familiar to anyone who has navigated difficult family dynamics. The tension between loyalty and self-preservation, between love and emotional safety, is universal. But Maddie's context magnifies the stakes. She is not only navigating private family conflict, but also the scrutiny of a national audience. The role of fan communities in Maddie's story cannot be understated. Platforms like Reddit, Twitter, and Instagram serve as spaces where Maddie's choices are dissected, theorized, and supported. Fans actively debate the nuances of her estrangement, offering perspectives that often align with Maddie's own reflections. For instance, threads discussing Maddie's Instagram posts frequently highlight her emotional intelligence and strategic approach to communication. One Reddit user commented, "Maddie isn't just cutting him off out of spite. She's doing it to protect her family and herself. That's growth." These conversations reflect a broader understanding among viewers that the challenges Maddie faces are systemic, rooted in the structure of the Brown family and the polygamous lifestyle, rather than personal failings. The estrangement between Maddie Brush and her father, Kody Brown, isn't confined to private family disputes. It has played out on a public stage, magnified by social media and TLC's national spotlight. For Maddie, the challenge isn't just navigating her own emotions. It's also contending with the narratives being spun about her life and choices. In October 2024, 7 months after Maddie welcomed her 4th child with Caleb Brush, she made a striking comment on Instagram that resonated with many followers. "Your dad saying lies about you for the entire world to hear teaches it to you real quick." This post wasn't just a venting moment. It was an acknowledgement of the psychological impact of public misrepresentation. Being mischaracterized by a parent in a family as high profile as the Browns isn't a casual slight. It's a full-blown assault on identity. Maddie's words highlight the duality of growing up in such a household: private pain made public, and personal decisions subjected to external scrutiny. Reddit communities exploded with discussion after Maddie's post. Fans pointed out that while Kody often deflects responsibility for family conflict, the children feel the repercussions most acutely. Maddie's response reflects an evolving generational approach, setting boundaries and refusing to be publicly defined by a parent's narrative. Maddie's estrangement also shines a spotlight on Kody's parenting style. Multiple insiders and sister wives commentators have described a pattern of controlling behavior, particularly toward adult daughters. Kody's insistence on dictating terms in the relationship, "you play by my rules," has been a consistent theme. Maddie confirmed this in the Authentic Society podcast. "He doesn't have any respect for boundaries, and you have to play by his rules. I just don't care to do that." This perspective aligns with what fans have noticed for years. While TLC often frames family tension as sibling rivalry or interpersonal conflict, Maddie's story makes clear that the real root is the patriarch's control. Her refusal to engage on his terms is both a protective measure and a declaration of independence. The decision to go no contact wasn't impulsive. Maddie had been navigating her feelings toward Kody for years, gradually realizing that any attempt to reconcile on his terms would be emotionally costly. By choosing distance, she asserts authority over her own life. This approach also mirrors strategies employed by other adult children of polygamous families seeking autonomy. 7 months after giving birth, Maddie's actions suggest that her focus is firmly on her own nuclear family. The choice to disengage from Kody underscores a key point. Emotional safety often requires difficult decisions, including severing ties with a parent. In a family where loyalty is expected and boundaries are often ignored, Maddie's decision represents a courageous act of self-preservation. Maddie's estrangement also affects relationships within the Brown family. Janelle, Maddie's mother, has acknowledged the tension, revealing that Kody isn't aware of some major life events, like Maddie's pregnancies. During the November 9th episode of Sister Wives, Janelle stated, "No, Maddie doesn't really even tell him that she's pregnant. He'll find out. There's no real reason to. They haven't spoken for a long time." This level of disconnect demonstrates the depth of the rift. Fans and commentators alike have noted that in a family built on public appearances and shared events, withholding information is a form of quiet rebellion. Maddie's choice to limit contact and information flow disrupts Kody's narrative control and highlights the consequences of patriarchal dominance. Maddie's Instagram comments and public statements have generated waves of support online. Many fans interpret her actions as a stand against a controlling, often manipulative patriarch. Threads on Reddit highlight that Maddie is asserting boundaries not only for herself, but as a model for her children. This is a key distinction. Her no-contact stance isn't about personal spite, it's about creating a healthier environment for her family. Fans also note the generational difference in response to Kody's control. While earlier Brown daughters, like Christine and Mary, navigated conflict within the framework of polygamy, Maddie leverages modern tools, social media, public platforms, and selective communication to assert independence. This approach demonstrates a shift in how younger generations of plural family children manage inherited trauma. Going no contact is not without pain. Maddie's silence toward Kody reflects unresolved emotions, grief, and the loss of a paternal relationship. Yet, in interviews and posts, she emphasizes the importance of mental health and protecting her family from harm. The underlying message is clear. Emotional survival sometimes requires creating space from toxic dynamics, even if it means enduring the pain of estrangement. Psychologists often note that children of high-control parents must navigate complex feelings when establishing autonomy. Maddie's situation is amplified by public scrutiny, making the emotional stakes higher. Her ability to prioritize her family's well-being over public appearances demonstrates both resilience and maturity. For Maddie, platforms like Instagram serve as both a confessional and a support system. Sharing reflections about energy, boundaries, and paternal control allows her to process her experiences while connecting with others who understand similar family struggles. In doing so, she transforms personal pain into communal insight, creating a dialogue that goes beyond entertainment and into the realm of social commentary. Online fans have praised Maddie for her candid approach. Many interpret her posts as guidance for others, dealing with controlling family members, emphasizing emotional boundaries and self-preservation. By publicly navigating estrangement, Maddie redefines the narrative around adult children in high-profile polygamous families, offering a blueprint for autonomy and resilience. Madison Brush, often called Maddie, has quietly carved out a life separate from her father, Kody Brown, and the path she has chosen has become one of the most talked about dynamics in the Sister Wives universe. For years, fans have watched Maddie navigate her relationship with her father, often filled with tension, misunderstanding, and silence. As of October 2025, the estrangement remains in place, with Maddie maintaining clear boundaries and a firm stance on what she will and will not tolerate from her father. The most public evidence of their strained relationship surfaced on a November episode of the TLC series, when Janelle Brown, Maddie's mother, was asked whether Kody knew that Maddie was expecting her fourth child. Her response was telling, "No, Maddie doesn't really even tell him that she's pregnant. He'll find out. There's no really reason to. They haven't spoken for a long time." According to Janelle, that silence had been ongoing for approximately 2 to 3 years. The implication was clear. Maddie had chosen distance, not out of lack of love, but as a protective measure for her own emotional well-being. Maddie's approach to her father is not rooted in petty resentment. Rather, it is an assertive declaration of autonomy. She has expressed that Kody's insistence on controlling interactions created an environment where genuine connection was impossible. On the November 2024 episode of The Authentic Society podcast, Maddie explained, "He doesn't have any respect for boundaries, and you have to play by his rules, and I just don't care to do that." Her statement underscores the long-standing issue. For Maddie, relationship rules dictated by Kody are incompatible with her sense of self and personal boundaries. The challenges of this estrangement are not solely private. They play out in the public eye due to the family's reality television platform. In October 2025, Maddie took to Instagram to share reflections on managing energy and emotional investment. One post featured an inspirational quote about carefully deciding what is worth one's energy, followed by a direct message screenshot to a fan seeking advice. She wrote, "Your dad saying lies about you for the entire world to hear teaches it to you real quick." This remark reflects a broader understanding of how public narratives can shape personal perception and emphasizes why Maddie has chosen to limit interaction with Kody. While the estrangement may appear stark, it exists alongside a nuanced perspective. Maddie has acknowledged that Kody has taken some ownership of the failures in his family relationships, describing them as lengthy processes of repair. However, ownership alone is insufficient to rebuild trust. The path to reconciliation, as outlined implicitly by Maddie's statements and actions, requires accountability, consistency, and respect for boundaries, qualities that, to date, have been inconsistent in her father's behavior. This separation has not stopped Maddie from growing her own family and establishing her own household. By March 2025, Maddie welcomed her fourth child with husband Caleb Brush, expanding their family to 4 children. She has been deliberate in creating a safe, stable environment for her children, separate from the complexities of her upbringing. Her decision to limit Kody's involvement reflects both a protective instinct and an effort to redefine what family looks like on her own terms. Fans recognize this as a generational shift. The children of sister wives are being raised in spaces where boundaries and emotional safety are prioritized over obligation or tradition. Part of Maddie's estrangement is informed by experience. Throughout her life, she has witnessed the ways in which family hierarchies and patriarchal control operated within the polygamous structure she was born into. This dynamic, often highlighted by Kody's central role in decision-making, influenced Maddie's determination to establish independence. She has openly discussed how living under a system where obedience was demanded and individuality was often suppressed shaped her understanding of autonomy. By stepping back from her father, Maddie asserts the right to manage her own life and relationships on her own terms. Despite the distance, Maddie has not abandoned empathy. In interviews, she has reflected on the possibility that her father may also be navigating his own limitations and struggles. She has suggested that his approach to parenting and family control may be informed by his upbringing and the pressures of maintaining a large public family. Nevertheless, empathy does not equate to reconciliation. It allows Maddie to process her feelings without resentment while still maintaining her boundaries. This balance of compassion and self-preservation illustrates her growth and maturity. Public reaction to Maddie's estrangement has been mixed, reflecting the complexities of modern family life, especially under the scrutiny of reality television. Some fans view her actions as courageous, a refusal to endure emotional harm for the sake of appearances. Others speculate that reconciliation is possible if Kody demonstrates consistent respect for her autonomy and privacy. Reddit communities and social media discussions have been particularly active, debating the likelihood of mending the father-daughter bond. A recurring theme is the understanding that reconciliation, if it happens, must occur on Maddie's terms and cannot be rushed or coerced. In this ongoing narrative, Maddie represents a new generation of sister wives' children who are challenging traditional expectations. Her insistence on boundaries, her selective communication with Kody, and her focus on her own nuclear family reflect broader questions about family dynamics, autonomy, and the right to redefine relationships. She illustrates that love does not require constant contact, and respect cannot be assumed. It must be earned. Looking forward, the story of Maddie and Kody remains unresolved. There are no public indications of a scheduled reconciliation, yet the potential remains. For Maddie, the priority is clear: maintain emotional safety, protect her children, and navigate her life with intentionality. For Kody, the challenge is equally clear: consistent accountability, respect for boundaries, and a willingness to step back rather than dictate if he hopes to rebuild trust. As fans continue to watch the unfolding story, the lessons are multifaceted. Maddie's experience underscores the importance of boundaries in family relationships, the impact of generational trauma, and the ways in which public scrutiny can amplify private challenges. Her journey is not just about estrangement, it is about self-determination, emotional intelligence, and the ongoing effort to create a family culture that is healthier, safer, and more intentional